The industry's moving in this direction regardless, so you better get on board the train or be left behind and out of business. Welcome to the Fund AI Pod, where we explore and showcase how AI is transforming the asset management and funds industry. I'm your host, Iain Carey, and today we have a light episode with another Paper Pulse roundup of 3 relevant industry papers. We'll be back to our normal one-on-one interviews next episode, and I'm excited to share that we have over a dozen speakers now committed to sharing their stories on this podcast. On today's reading list, we have first, Equity Data Science's paper on reimagining the modern investment process. It's a detailed look at why the research and portfolio construction process is just too fragmented and how managers can build integrated, intelligence-driven workflows. Next up will be Microsoft's fantastic paper on creating an AI learning culture. While it is a general business report, the implications for the funds industry are powerful. It explains why the skills gap is becoming one of the biggest barriers to adopting AI both safely and at scale. And lastly, we have PwC Ireland's report on how AI agents are reshaping IT operating models. Although it is written for CIOs, we'll take a look at it through the lens of the funds industry and how agents will start taking on more of the routine multi-step work that slows down teams today. I will link all the underlying source papers in the show notes. Now let's dive into the first paper. Equity Data Science is a front office technology vendor focused specifically on fundamental investing. Their software harmonizes the investment lifecycle process, covering idea generation, research management, portfolio construction, risk management, performance attribution, and ESG. This paper tackles a problem that every asset manager knows well. The investment process has become too fragmented and far too dependent on tools that do not integrate. Analysts may bounce between 10 or more different systems to gather insights, store notes, update models, check positions, read transcripts, and review performance. EDS highlights 10 competing voices that analysts must weigh every day. Company filings, transcripts, internal notes, broker research, buy-side research, channel checks, alternative data, competitive landscape, internal models, portfolio positioning. All valuable, all essential, but none connected. EDS calls this the risk of rolling forward on cruise control until something breaks. Signals get lost, information gets buried, and decisions rely on memory rather than evidence. The result is missed opportunities, inconsistent decision-making, and higher operational risk. The paper ties this directly to asset owner expectations. They cite a Northern Trust 2025 survey paper of 180 global asset allocators, and the message was unmistakable. Asset owners want timely, accurate, decision-ready data. They want integrated analytics, better reporting, and truly transparent investment processes. Managers are now being evaluated not just on performance, but on the quality of the investment process that produced that performance. EDS argues that modern platforms need 5 things. 1, centralized data instead of siloed folders. 2, purpose-built databases so analysis is not lost in Excel versions. 3, configurable workflows that fit the team's philosophy. 4, integrated analytics like risk, attribution, and positioning tied directly into the research environment. And 5, AI assistance that surfaces insights from filings and transcripts in real time. EDS also emphasizes the growing fusion of human insight and machine intelligence. The most effective approach keeps the human judgment at the center, with AI as the accelerator. Human expertise, where PMs and analysts provide the context, hypotheses, and decision-making. Then AI assists with retrieval summarization, analysis of vast structured and unstructured data. Think filings, transcripts, broker research. Then the integration of the two. Insights generated by AI feed directly into research and risk dashboards, alongside transparent citations for verification. Let's be honest, this paper is effectively a sales piece for their software. But from my perspective, EDS is absolutely right. The gap today is not data availability, but data quality and data integration. Most teams still run on disconnected tools, and that can create friction and operational risk. What I would add to the paper is that cultural adoption will matter just as much as the technology. You could build the best platform in the world, but analysts must actually use it as the backbone of their workflow. We'll touch on AI learning culture in the next paper. I love how the paper wraps it up, where effectively they state that adopting these modern investment process management frameworks, that's a mouthful, soon won't be about achieving competitive advantage, but be considered the baseline or the bare minimum to survive. The industry is moving in this direction regardless, so you better get on board the train or be left behind and out of business. The next paper is by Microsoft, and it's called Create an AI Learning Culture, with the tagline, 5 Considerations to Empower Teams with AI Skills. As everyone knows, Microsoft is one of the leading AI vendors, so I always pay attention when they release an AI guide or paper. The first theme Microsoft highlights is that business priorities have shifted faster than workforce capabilities, and this is exactly what we're seeing in the funds industry. Research teams now need to understand Gen AI prompts, retrieval systems, factor labeling, sentiment tools, and agent-based workflows. Risk teams have been asked to govern models they didn't build. Compliance teams must audit AI outputs under the EU AI Act, and operations teams must integrate automation safely without breaking oversight. Microsoft frames this as the rise of the skills-first era, and they argue that upskilling existing employees is faster, cheaper, and far more sustainable than trying to hire your way out of the skills gap. And in many ways, that aligns with what we're seeing in the funds industry. The firms that are doing well aren't the ones that are simply hiring more quants. They're the ones that are teaching existing teams how to use AI responsibly. Microsoft lays out 5 familiar barriers, and I'll relate it to the funds industry. First, uncertainty about which skills matter. Do research teams need to learn Python, prompt engineering, scenario modeling, or governance? Second, training programs lag behind the industry reality. Many corporate L&D offerings are good, but they're still built around traditional IT and soft skills, not AI model oversight or agentic workflows. 3. No time, no budget. Existing workloads don't pause just because a team needs to learn how to use AI. 4. Misaligned incentives. People won't invest in new skills if they don't see how it affects their day-to-day or their career path. 5. Resistance to change. Some fear being replaced. Some fear looking incompetent. Some simply don't want to change workflows that have just always worked. Microsoft notes that a whopping 88% of organizations worry about retention, and upskilling is the #1 retention strategy. That's a huge signal for the funds industry. AI skills aren't just about productivity, they're about talent. Microsoft provides 5 key considerations to help address these challenges and empower your teams. Microsoft's first recommendation is to map the road to proficiency. They suggest starting with, first, determining what skills your team actually has today. Then second, what skills will be essential for an AI-enabled investment process. And then third, which of those gaps matter most for performance and governance. Mapping the gap helps avoid overtraining in some areas and undertraining in others. And importantly, Microsoft emphasizes speaking to people who have done it before. Learn from their experience. The second consideration is to strengthen the teams for the future. Not everything needs to come from the L&D department, which is often too slow to keep pace with AI anyway. Microsoft suggests the following. Leverage internal experts for lunch and learns. Use vendor resources, open source learning, and self-paced modules. Join online communities where practitioners share real lessons and learn from them. And encourage peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. For asset managers, this means teaching analysts to prompt correctly, teaching risk teams to understand governance standards, and teaching compliance teams how to review AI outputs for explainability and fairness. The key message? AI fluency becomes everyone's job. The third consideration is brutally honest. Solve the time and budget puzzle. Most teams simply don't have the time. Productivity targets are rising, yet 80% of employees say they lack the time or energy to do their work. Microsoft recommends a few things our industry could adopt immediately. Prioritize the highest impact skills only, shadowing subject matter experts instead of formal training, building a business case for training by showing return on investment, and schedule protected time for learning. Block out the calendar. This is something I recommend for the funds industry. Carve out structured hours for learning, especially this early in the AI adoption phase. It's not a nice to have, it's a strategic requirement to stay competitive. Microsoft's fourth point is all about increasing human motivation by reducing friction. People learn faster when they understand why it helps their career. For example, in the funds industry, for analysts, it expands coverage. For risk, it sharpens oversight. For PMs, it improves conviction. For operations, it reduces manual breaks. And for compliance, it boosts auditability. When people see the upside for themselves, resistance drops dramatically. The final section of Microsoft's paper is about culture and building on success, probably the most relevant piece for financial services. A true AI learning culture means leaders model continuous learning, teams get protected time for learning, learning is role-based and updated quarterly so it stays current, wins are celebrated, knowledge is shared publicly, and skills are viewed as a career accelerator. AI adoption fails when it's treated as a tool. It succeeds when it becomes a habit, a mindset, a cultural norm. And in an industry where governance, accuracy, and trust are non-negotiable, a culture of learning should be non-negotiable. It's the only safe path to responsible AI adoption. For this next paper, we're stepping into the world of AI agents and how they will reshape Irish IT operating models. Remember, 2025 was quoted as the year of the agents. PwC Ireland's new paper called AI Agents Reshape Irish IT Operating Models is technically aimed at CIOs, but almost every insight applies to the funds industry. So I'll tailor the takeaway messages with a funds industry lens. The reality is this: as AI becomes embedded in the investment management process, the bottleneck is no longer the analyst or the PM. It's the operating model underneath. PwC's message is clear. AI agents are about to reshape how front-to-back operating models are actually run. PwC defines AI agents as systems that can reason, plan, and execute tasks independently. Not just summarizing a document, not just generating text, but actually performing and completing multi-step workflows. Let's translate that into the funds industry. And you're talking about agents that can monitor hundreds of portfolio KPIs continuously, extract insights from filings and earnings calls, classify risks and escalate exceptions, reconcile data between IBOR and vendor feeds, and support compliance monitoring or operational oversight. Adoption is growing. PwC found that more than half the firms surveyed already use agents in IT and cybersecurity. They argue that agents deliver value within 90 days if deployed well. The key there is deployed well. One of PwC's strongest points is how agents reshape team structure. Now, this paper is focused on IT organizations, but the philosophy applies to the funds industry. Traditionally, asset managers rely on layered teams, analysts, associates, seniors, with a lot of manual work pushed down to the bottom. Agents flip this dynamic. Agents take over the repetitive, rules-based, time-consuming work, freeing up analysts, risk officers, and operations to focus on real value-added work, such as thesis refinement, scenario thinking, oversight, exception management, portfolio conversations. PwC calls this shift moving from lines of code to lines of impact. In an investment context, it's less time cleaning data, more time interpreting it. PwC focuses heavily on orchestration, and this is where the funds industry angle becomes obvious. One agent is helpful. A coordinated network of agents can automate the whole investment workflow. Intake, verification, analysis, risk checking, drafting, exception routing, all before a human reviews. The new model: smaller teams, smarter agents, bigger impact. They provide a playbook to capture value immediately and scale from there. 1. Work in new ways. Rethink workflows for hybrid human-agent teams and roll out in agile sprints. 2. Embed trust. Manage new risks tied to agent autonomy by building trusted guardrails, an orchestration layer, and responsible AI. 3. Align your tech. Add data upgrades, API, and a scalable architecture. 4. Future-proof your talent. Add new skills and roles like AI product manager, agent engineer, and escalation specialist. For asset managers, the message is simple. Front-to-back investment processes will only run at AI speeds if the operating model evolves, and agents will be central to that evolution. That's a wrap for the deep dive. But across those 3 papers, the message is clear. Asset management is moving into a new phase of AI adoption. EDS shows us that the investment processes must shift from fragmented tools towards integrated, intelligence-driven workflows. Microsoft reminds us that none of this works without a skilled workforce, and PwC shows us that the operating model beneath those workflows must evolve to support agents and automation safely. The firms that excel will be the ones that modernize all three layers together: data and workflow integration at the top, skills and culture in the middle, and a flexible, agent-ready operating model underneath. This is where the next wave of competitive advantage will come from. Not just better models, but better processes. Not just more automation, but more insight. And not just new tools, but teams and operating models that can use them well. I'm Iain Carey, and this has been a Paper Pulse episode of the Fund AI Pod. If you want copies of any of the reports discussed today, the links are in the show notes. If you have an AI story from the funds industry and wish to share, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Iain Carey, 𝐼𝐴𝐼𝐿𝐶𝐴REY. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.